Good afternoon, everybody. We'll just start the lecture. Now it is 40 past 12, but the students admitted are just 27. Okay, we'll just wait for 1 more minute and then we'll start the lecture. Until then, I will take your attendance based on the participant list. Okay, so can you see the screen? Anybody? Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir. But it is
yes. Lastly, someone was saying something.
yes, sir. Your voice is coming, but it is low.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start with the new lecture. And before starting with the new lecture, let us just see what we have studied up to now. Okay. So we are studying the first unit, that is Introduction to Irrigation. And under that, as I have said, there are three parts in the first unit. The first part is Introduction to Irrigation. Uh, yes, the first part is Introduction to Irrigation, which is a totally introductory and theoretical part, which we have covered up to the last lecture. Then the second part is a very small theoretical part, which is Introduction to Hydrology, uh, which we will see in detail in the fifth unit. And the third part of our first unit is Water Requirement of Crop, which is a theoretical, conceptual, as well as numerical part of the first unit. Okay. So today up till now we have covered the first part, that is Introduction to Irrigation. In this, from here onwards, we'll complete the second part and the third part. Okay. So today we will study the second part, that is Introduction to Hydrology. And if time permits, if you have time available, we will just start an introduction of the third part, which is Water Requirement of Crops. Okay. So before starting the second part, that is Introduction to Hydrology, we'll just briefly review what we studied in the first part. Okay. Now under Introduction to Irrigation, we studied what are the different definition of irrigation. Then we studied scope of irrigation. Under the scope of irrigation, we studied the three aspects of irrigation. First is the engineering aspect, which we as civil engineers or water resource engineers have to deal with. Second is the agricultural aspect which the agriculture engineers or agriculture scientists have to deal with, and third is the management aspect. Then we saw what is the necessity of irrigation. We saw how in India some parts receive high amount or large amount of rainfall, while some places do not receive much rainfall. So we saw that we cannot depend upon just the monsoon season for our agricultural needs. We have a necessity of irrigation. Then the next point was ill effect of irrigation and advantages. Now there are a lots of advantages of irrigation. Basically, those advantages deal with how the farmers have prospered, how the water has been properly utilized, and how we have used that water for hydroelectric power generation. Then next is different types of irrigation system. Under different types of irrigation system, there are three main types. First is the surface irrigation, second is the sprinkler irrigation, and third is the subsurface irrigation. Now under surface irrigation, we have six different types of irrigation. That is the wild flooding or free flooding irrigation. Second is the border flooding irrigation. Third is the check flooding irrigation. Fourth is basin flooding. Fifth is furrow irrigation, and sixth is the drip irrigation method. And the other two types are sprinkler and subsurface. So we saw all these types. Then next we studied the what is the difference between a weir, a barrage, and a dam. And in that we saw that weir and barrage are particularly same, and they have the same purpose, that is diverting the water of a river. And dam is nothing but we store water. We do not divert water. What we do is we store water in a dam. And lastly were the methods of distribution of water, and lastly was the development of irrigation in India. Now we will start with introduction to hydrology. Now under introduction to hydrology, the following points are going to be covered. First is the hydrologic cycle, which is nothing but the water cycle. And in that we'll study how rainfall is the main component of the hydrologic cycle. We are going to just see a brief overview of it. Okay, we are not going to go in details. We will go in details in the fifth unit. Okay, so in the first unit it is just introduction part, so we'll just see a brief overview. Then next important components of hydrology, that are the surface water and groundwater, we'll just see briefly. So let us start with hydrology. First we'll see the definitions of what is hydrology. So the first definition is hydrology is defined as the science which deals with the depletion and replenishment of our water resources. Okay. Now this is a very small definition. It does not include a very large amount of topics that we are going to cover in hydrology, but it is a basic, as you call it, a basic definition. Okay, it is a science which deals with the depletion and replenishment. Okay, that is renewability of our water resources. But the basic or most important definition of hydrology is, it is the it is the second definition. It is the science that encompasses the study of water on the earth's surface and beneath the surface of the earth, the occurrence and movement of water, the physical and chemical properties of water, and its relationship with the living and material components of the environment. Okay, so it is a very large definition. I will break down this definition, okay, line by line, so you'll definitely understand what it means. So first we'll see, it is the science that encompasses the study of water which is on the surface of the earth and which is below the surface of the earth. That means in hydrology we are going to study the water on earth surface, for example rivers, lakes, streams, rivulets, okay, oceans, seas, etc., as well as the water which is beneath the surface of the earth. And that water is known as the groundwater or subsurface water, which is in the aquifers which are below the surface of earth, and which we can use with the help of wells or tube wells. Okay. Then the second part is it is the study of occurrence and movement of water. So we'll study how water occurs. Okay. Instead of occurrence, we will see where do we get water from. So the basic source of water on this earth is the rainfall, or in water resource engineering term, if you call it, it is known as precipitation. Okay, so that is the main source from where water occurs. But there are a number of different sources which we are going to study in the fifth unit. And next is the it is the study of movement of water, how the water from rainfall, okay, water which falls down on the earth's surface in the form of rain, how that water gets collected in seas or in lakes, how that water travels from lakes to rivers, and how the water travels from rivers to oceans, as well as how the water from the surface of the earth travels below the surface, that is to the groundwater, and that groundwater, how that groundwater travels up to the rivers and oceans. So we are going to study the movement of water. Next is the physical and chemical properties of water. Now physical properties of water, you have studied it in hydraulics 1. If you remember, the physical properties of waters were viscosity, surface tension, capillarity, vapor pressure, and cavitation. These are the different physical properties of water, and they are important. Okay, the base of that properties is important to study water resource engineering. Specifically, the property of capillarity is important for us to study irrigation process. Okay, so moving forward, we'll study the relationship of water with living and material components. Okay, so how the water which is available on the earth, how is its relationship, and how it affects the living beings. Living beings in this case are the plants, trees, as well as humans and animals, as well as the relationship of water with material components. Okay, the material components in this case are, for example, how the water will behave in an open channel when the bed of the channel is natural, that is, it is made up of sand and stones. Or, for example, how will the water in an open channel behave when it is a canal? Okay, when the open channel is a canal made of concrete lining. Or how will the water behave in a iron pipe? How will the water behave in a concrete pipe? So we'll study the relationship of water with the material components. I hope you understood the definition. We'll move forward. uh, though we have been dependent upon water, okay, since the history of man began, the science of hydrology is relatively new. Okay, the science of hydrology, or the engineering aspects of hydrology, developed in the last 120 years. The relationship between evaporation, between condensation, rainfall, between runoff, all those relationships mankind did not knew 120 years back. Okay, so hydrology is a relatively new science, and this science will grow in importance as the water sources on the earth deplete. Okay, now as you all know, there is a high scarcity of water throughout the world, and due to climate change, we are seeing that water is becoming an important commodity in different regions, in different countries of the earth. So remember this, in future this is going to be a very important field, okay, than it is now. Next, now hydrology encompasses all the elements on and below the surface of the earth, okay, which are related to water. First is the rainfall, which is the precipitation where water falls from the clouds to the surface of the earth. Second is the evaporation. Sun's radiation cause the water from the free surface of oceans and lakes to dry up and go higher. Then next is the runoff. Now runoff, when water falls in the form of rain, some amount of water, okay, for example, the water which falls on uh, concrete pavements or tar roads, okay, that water does not get seeped into the soil, because the concrete pavement or a tar road, it is an impervious layer, so it does not allow water to seep. So that water runs off through the sewer systems towards the rivers, okay. Next is infiltration. Now, whereas some amount of the rainfall runs off through the sewer system, some amount of rainfall which falls on soft soil or the earth, okay, it gets seeped into the soil. Okay, it generally happens where the soil has a very high permeability. Okay, so the water immediately seeps into the soil, thereby creating groundwater sources. And groundwater is nothing but the water which is available below the surface of the earth. And last is the evapotranspiration. Now what is evapotranspiration is, one source you know that water evaporates from is the free surface of the water which is available on seas, oceans and lakes, okay. Now there is another source from where the water evaporates. Now this source is the leaves of the trees. Now as you know, though there is too much amount of deforestation today, but if you see, a large portion of the earth is still covered in greenery. That means it is still covered in plants or trees. So now the leaves of those plants or trees, they contain water inside them, okay. Now when the sun's radiation falls on them, some amount of water is evaporated from the leaves, okay, and it goes higher up and forms clouds. That process is nothing but evapotranspiration, okay. So that is an important term which you will study. Now while studying hydrology, we are going to study the theoretical base of all these components, as well as we are going to study the mathematical formulas, the relation, mathematical relation between all these components. And based on these mathematical formulas and relationships, we are going to form different models, okay, with the help of which we can predict the amount of rainfall which is going to fall in the next year or the next 10 years, or we are going to predict whether there are going to be floods in a particular region or particular country, as well as we are going to design our irrigation systems, okay, such as dams, as well as weirs, barrages and canals, based on these components, okay. So the study of these components is very important. Next, the basic knowledge of hydrology is necessary for civil engineers for, first is design, planning or construction of irrigation source structures. Next is the design, planning and construction of bridges and highway culverts. Now bridges and highway culverts are not necessarily irrigation or hydraulic structures, but for designing, planning and construction of bridges and highway culverts, the study of hydrology is very important. Okay. For example, we construct bridges where there is a body of water below. Okay. So we should know, based on the rainfall model, based on the runoff model, what will be the depth of water, in which season do we have to build the bridges. Okay. And in different seasons, depending upon what will be the depth and what will be the velocity of running river waters, what should be the strength of our bridges, and we'll design our bridges based on those considerations. Last is the we require basic knowledge of hydrology for constructing flood control works. Now, flood control works are nothing but guide banks, embankments, okay, groins, and levees. Now, these are structures which we will study in detail in the third unit. Okay, but these just I'll tell you, these structures are used for the basic purpose, so that the water from the river, okay, when it gets flooded, it does not enter agricultural fields, or it does not enter cities or towns or villages. For this purpose, to prevent flooding of the agricultural fields and cities, towns and villages, we have to construct flood control structures. Okay, and those structures we will study in detail in the third unit. So this is a basic of hydrology. Now we'll study the first part of hydrology, which is the most important part, that is hydrologic cycle. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Now, as I told you earlier, hydrologic cycle is nothing but the water cycle which you have studied in schools. Okay, uh, but in schools you have studied just a brief explanation. In this we are going to study the theoretical base. We are going to study the mathematical formulas and relationships between different components, okay, and how they affect each other. And based on that, we will prepare models. Okay, models in the sense we are going to prepare mathematical models. So let's start. Hydrologic cycle is also known as the water cycle, and it is the normal water recycling system on Earth. We will see how the water recycles. Now, the first part or the main part is, due to the solar radiation or the heat from the sun, water will evaporate generally from the seas, lakes, oceans, etc. Okay. Now, water will also evaporate from the plant leaves through the mechanism of transpiration, and this process is known as evapotranspiration. So from these two different sources, water will evaporate due to the heat of the sun or due to solar radiation, and it will rise. Now, as the steam or as the vapors rise in the atmosphere, as they rise higher, they are being cooled, and as they become cool, they become condensed, and they become cool and form clouds. Now, those clouds, when they condense, they return to the land and the sea as precipitation. Okay. Now, the term used in water resource engineering is precipitation, not rainfall. This is because precipitation can be of different forms. Precipitation can be in the form of rainfall, that means water falling, or it can be in the form of snowfall, or it can be in the form of hails, etc. Okay. So we used one basic term, which is precipitation. So the water will return to the land and the sea as precipitation. If you see here, the water falls from the clouds on top of the mountains, okay, and that water will run off. Okay, it now precipitation falls on the surface of the earth as surface water, and it shapes the surface, creating streams of water that results in lakes and rivers. Now, as uh, basically when water falls on a mountain, okay, we'll just consider here mountain. When the water falls on the mountain, okay, as the slope of the mountain is greater, water comes down from the mountain with a very great speed. Now as the water is coming down with a very great speed, okay, it carries itself with it carries with itself some soil particles which are present on the mountains. Okay, and as this soil gets eroded along with the rainwater, what happens is there are small pathways formed for the water to flow. Okay, this is why it is said that precipitation shapes the surface. It forms different pathways for water, which creates streams of water, and that will result in the formation of either lakes as well as rivers. Now some part of the water which does not run off, okay, and which clings to the soil, this generally happens in flatter areas where there is very less slope or no slope. Now a part of the water precipitating, it penetrates the ground or it infiltrates the ground and moves downward through the incisions. That means it moves downward through the pores of the soil, forming aquifers. Now we'll see what are aquifers in the next slide, coming slide. Uh, Now finally a part of the surface and the underground water leads to the sea. Okay, so a part of the surface water that is in the form of rivers, as you know, the final destination of a river is always a sea or an ocean. Similarly, the underground water, that means the groundwater, okay, now this groundwater as it is traveling downwards, okay, vertical, it is also traveling horizontally. Okay, it is also traveling horizontally uh, by the help of the natural slope of earth. Now that water which is traveling horizontally finally meets the rivers and the oceans. So in this way the cycle is completed. Okay, so what is the cycle? Water evaporates from the ocean due to the heat of the sun. It forms cloud. The clouds condense. They fall on the surface of the earth. Now some amount of the water falls on the surface. It runs off towards the lakes, and that water runs off towards the rivers. Okay, another part is some other water, it gets infiltrated into the soil and it travels below the surface of the soil in form of groundwater. Now both these river water and groundwater, they travel horizontally towards the ocean. Okay, which will again then get evaporated and form clouds, forming the rainfall. In this way, this is nothing but the water recycling system on the earth. So this is the hydrologic cycle. I hope you understood it. Let's go to the next point. Now, before going, this is the last point. During this trip, okay, that means during the whole water cycle, water is converted in all phases, that is gas, liquid and solid. Roll number 50. Just mute yourself. Okay. So during this water cycle, water is converted in all phases. So while evaporation takes place from the ocean and the plants leaves, the water gets converted into vapors, that is gas. And when the water is falling in the form of precipitation, it forms either in the liquid form, that is rainfall, or in the solid form, which is hails and snowfall. Okay, so this is the hydrologic cycle. Let's go to the next point in introduction, that is we are going to study about the surface water. So surface water is the water located on top of the surface of the earth, such as river, creeks and wetlands, okay, as well as lakes, seas and oceans. Okay, so simple meaning, okay, the water which is present on the surface of the earth is surface water. Now the vast majority of the surface water, that is water present in the lakes and rivers and ocean, is due to the majority is due to the direct precipitation or direct rainfall which falls on those rivers and lakes, as well as the water which has run off in the forms of stream from the nearby higher elevation to the lakes which are at lower elevation, or the rivers which are at lower elevation. Now there are three major types of surface water. First is the permanent, or the other word for it is perennial type of surface water, and this permanent includes rivers, swamps and lakes. Okay, now perennial or permanent type of surface water is nothing but water which is present throughout the year. Okay, it is present throughout the year. For example, rivers, in some lakes, they are present throughout the year, they do not dry out. Some amount of water is still present during the summer and winter season. Second is the semi-permanent source, okay, or semi-permanent type, which is also known as ephemeral. Okay, that means the sources or types of surface water which get filled up only during the rainy season. Okay, for example, in a city, or in a wasteland, there might be an area which has a lower elevation. Okay, and all the water will be collected in that place. Okay, it will be a small, either it will be a creek or it will be a small water hole or a lagoon, all have same meanings basically. uh, it will be nothing but a small depression in which some amount of water will be stored during the rainy season. But after the monsoon season, or after the rainfall stops, immediately the water which are present in those water holes, either they infiltrate or they are evaporated. Okay, and after the end of monsoon season we cannot find this source of water, so hence they are known as semi permanent sources. And the third sources are the man-made sources, which are formed by construction of dams or artificial swamps. Okay, so these are the three major types of surface water. Now under surface water we have rivers, lakes, streams, then we have oceans, seas, etc. Then next we'll go to the groundwater. Okay, this is a important component of hydrology, or an important part of hydrology, study of groundwater. And groundwater, there is a different subject in water resource engineering which is known as groundwater hydrology. Okay, in that part we study just about groundwater. So what is groundwater? It is the part of precipitation that seeps down through the soil until it reaches rock material that is saturated with water. Okay, now below the surface of the earth there are two basic zones. One is the saturated zone, sorry, unsaturated zone, and below that is the saturated zone. Now in the unsaturated zone there is basically loose soil. Okay, and this is the zone which is also known as the soil zone or the capillary zone. Okay, it is the zone in which the roots of the plants or the trees are present. uh, Now as this zone contains permeable soil, what happens is the water which gets infiltrated into the soil, it will travel downwards. Now how the water travels downwards, you have studied that in soil mechanics. Okay, I hope you remember that. And below the unsaturated zone there is a zone which contains just rock materials. Okay, and that is the saturated zone where the water will get stored. Now this unsaturated zone which contains rock materials and which stores water. This is known as an aquifer. Okay, it is known as aquifer. So this is important. Now, groundwater will fill the spaces between soil particles and fractured earth beneath the earth's surface. So the rock surfaces, they are going to be fractured, or there are going to be gravels which will have spaces between them. So the groundwater will be stored between those spaces. Okay. Next, water in the ground is stored in the spaces between the rock particles, and the groundwater slowly moves underground, generally at a downward angle because of gravity, and may eventually seep into streams, lakes, and oceans. Okay. So, how is the path of the groundwater? It travels in the downward direction due to gravity. Also, it travels in the horizontal direction towards the natural slope. Okay. So, we can say that the water, the path of the groundwater will be in such a form, okay, between horizontal and vertical, and it will travel until it meets surface water such as lakes, rivers, streams, or ocean. Okay, one of the important source of water for oceans and rivers, it is groundwater. That is water which has traveled from below the surface of the earth and it joins the rivers or the oceans. So this was the study of introduction to hydrology, in which we saw hydrologic cycle, the different components of hydrologic cycle such as infiltration, precipitation, evaporation, evapotranspiration, etc. Then we studied about the two sources of water. One is the surface water, the water which is available on the surface of the earth, and second is the groundwater, the water which is available below the surface of the earth. So this was introduction, a brief introduction to hydrology. It is a very small part. I told you it could be completed in just half an hour. Now what we'll do is we'll just see a brief introduction to water requirement of crops, and then we'll finish the lecture. Okay. Now this third part of the first unit, it is a very important part for you with respect to gate examinations, okay, as well as all the competitive examinations in MPSC, UPSC. Roll number 12, mute yourself. Okay. So this is a very important topic, and in this topic we are going to solve different types of uh, real life agricultural irrigation numericals. Okay, so this is a very important topic, and you should pay attention to this, because it is not only important for you for this end semester examination, it is important for you during gate examination as well as all the competitive examinations. So what is water requirement of crop? It is the water required by the plants for its survival, growth, and development. The water required by the crop for its survival, for its growth, and for its development. Now, this water requirement of crop can be fulfilled either naturally by precipitation, rainfall, or artificially by the help of irrigation. Okay, so we'll just see a basic. We'll just see a brief overview. The water requirement of crops means the total quantity and the way in which a crop requires water from the time it is sown to the time it is harvested. Okay, so what is water requirement of crop? It is the total quantity of water which required by the crop. Okay, and the method through which we are going to apply that water to the crop from the time the seeds of the plant are sown up till the time the crops are harvested. Okay, so that is nothing but the total water requirement of crop. Now the water requirement of the crops will vary with different crops as well as the place where the crop is grown. Okay, that means different crops will have different water requirement, and the same crops will have different water requirement at different places. Okay, so let me explain this second point to you, second and third point to you. That is, the water requirement will vary with the crop. Now this is self explanatory. For example, a crop such as sugarcane, its water requirement will be higher. Now, and a crop such as pomegranate or cotton, its water requirement will be lesser as compared to that of sugarcane. So, water requirement will vary with the crop. This is self-explanatory, but it is said here that same crop will have different water requirement at different places. Okay, that means if you grow sugarcane in western Maharashtra, which is the hub of sugarcane plantation, and if you grow sugarcane in a dry area such as the Marathwada region, okay, so the water requirement in western Maharashtra for the sugarcane crop and the water requirement for sugarcane crop in Marathwada region, it will be different. Although it is the same crop, okay, the water requirement will be different. This is because uh, the water requirement is dependent upon a number of factors. Okay, number of variables affect the water requirement. First is the type of soil which you are going to use. Okay, uh, now we will there is different soil. For example, black cotton soil in Marathwada region, uh, in the western Maharashtra region the soil is different. Okay, and different soil uh, require different amount of water. Okay, each different soil has different properties when it comes to it uh, taking water. Okay, as well as its the path which the water will take through the soil, whether it will be permeated easily in the soil, okay, or whether it will require a long time for the water to get infiltrated into the soil. Next is the different climatic conditions in the different places. Okay, now western Maharashtra is not as hot and as dry as the Marathwada region. In the Marathwada region, it is a very hot and dry place. So the water which we will apply, it will get evaporated at a faster rate. Okay, as compared to the water which we will apply in the western Maharashtra region. So that is why the water requirement for different crops will be different, as well as for the same crop they will be different at different places. Okay, so I hope you understood this. Now in water requirement of crops we are going to study some basic terms, okay, which are useful for solving numericals or solving real life problems related to agriculture. First and second are the crop period, base period. Third is the irrigation frequency or rotation period. Fourth is the delta of crop, and fifth is the duty of crop. Now in this lecture we'll just take the first two terms, that is the crop period and the base period, and then we'll stop this lecture. Okay, in the next lectures we'll study irrigation frequency, delta of crop, and duty of water. Now we'll see crop period and base period. First, we'll see what is crop period. The time period that elapses from the instant of its sowing to the instant of the crop's harvesting is called the crop period. Okay, that means the time from when the seeds are sown into the soil up to the time when the grown crop, okay, or the mature crop is harvested. Okay, the time period between those two moments is known as the crop period. And the second, base period, it is the time between the first watering of crop at the time of its sowing to last watering before harvesting is called the base period of the crop, or the base of the crop. Okay, so after we have sown our seeds, uh, the time when we will apply, first apply the water, up to the last time just before harvesting, when we'll finally apply the water, the time between those two intervals, it is known as the base period. Now, as you can imagine, the crop period is slightly more than the base period, but for practical purposes they are taken as one and the same, and they are generally expressed in days. Now, I will just explain it to you. For example, on the 1st March, okay, it is very hypothetical. On the 1st March, you have sown the seeds of a particular crop, and that crop has matured on the, for example, I'll take a random date 5th of July. Okay, so 1st March was the date when you planted the seeds. Okay, and 5th July was the time when you harvested the crop. Now the time interval between those two periods is known as the crop period. Okay, in this case our crop period is, if you consider, March has 31 days, April has 30 days, 61, June has 30 days, sorry, May has 31, it is 92, June has 30, so 92 and 30 is 122, and remaining 5 days of July, that is 122 plus 5, 127 days. So 127 days is the crop period of that particular crop. Okay, so what is the base period? Now after you have planted the seeds, okay, you will जेव्हा तुम्ही सीड्स प्लांट करता त्याच्यानंतर तुम्ही पहिल्यांदा वॉटरिंग करणार. ओके, दॅट विल बी आफ्टर प्लांटिंग द सीड्स, दॅट विल बी द फर्स्ट टाइम you will water the field. You will not water the field before planting the seeds. Okay, so after you have planted the seeds, you will perform your first watering. Okay, and you will perform your last watering just before the crops are harvested. Okay, so for example, my first watering is on 2nd March and my last watering is on the 1st of July. Okay, so that the time period between these two is nothing but the base period of the crop. Now as you can imagine, crop period, okay, it is greater than the base period. Base period will always be less than the crop period, but for practical purposes, whenever we say base period, we will consider it as crop period. Okay, or whenever we talk about crop period, we will consider it as base period, because the difference between crop period and base period is not very much, and the crop period and base period are generally expressed in days. Okay, the unit of crop period and base period is days. For example, 120 days, 100 days, 90 days. Okay, that is the unit of the base period or crop period. So I hope you have understood the first two terms related to water requirement of crop, that is crop period and base period. I will be stopping here. If anyone has any doubt, you can ask now.
हॅलो
Yes,
हॅलो
yes.
हॅलो सर, ते मराठी सांगा की, म्हणजे एक्झाम्पल परत एकदा.
कुठलं?
कन्फ्युज व्हायलाय क्रॉप आणि बेस पिरियड मध्ये.
अच्छा, क्रॉप आणि बेस पिरियड मध्ये का? ओके,
हा, मराठीत सांगा म्हणजे कळेल.
ठीक आहे. आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल तुम्ही काय केलं, 1 मार्चला तुम्ही सीड्स प्लांट केलेले आहेत. ओके, म्हणजे तुमची सोईंग तुम्ही 1 मार्चला केलेली आहे. आणि त्याच्यानंतर प्लांट्स जेव्हा ग्रो होतं, डेव्हलप होतं, आणि जेव्हा प्लांट मच्युअर होतं, ओके, म्हणजे हार्वेस्टिंगला येतं. फॉर एक्झाम्पल तुमची हार्वेस्टिंगची डेट आहे 5 जुलै. त्या दिवशी तुम्ही काय करणार, 1 मे सोविंग म्हणजेच आपली पेरणी. ओके, आणि 5 जुलैला आपलं हार्वेस्टिंग म्हणजे तोडणी. तर तो पिरियड बिटवीन 1 मार्च अँड 5 जुलै, दॅट इज नोन ॲज युअर क्रॉप पिरियड. Okay, that means the total period or the total time required by the crop for its growth, that is the crop period. आता तुम्ही वॉटर जे आहे ते सीड प्लांट करण्याच्या आधी तुम्ही अप्लाय करत नाही वॉटर फील्डला. जेव्हा तुम्ही सीड्स प्लांट करता, जेव्हा तुम्ही पेरणी करता, त्याच्यानंतर तुमची पहिली वॉटरिंग होती. ओके, त्याच्यानंतर पेरणी झाल्यानंतर तुम्ही पहिल्यांदा पाणी मारता तुमच्या ॲग्रिकल्चरल फील्डवरती. ओके, म्हणजे ती झाली तुमची फर्स्ट वॉटरिंग. आणि लास्ट वॉटरिंग तुमची कधी असती, म्हणजे लास्ट तुम्ही पाणी कधी मारता ॲग्रिकल्चरल फील्डमध्ये, जेव्हा तोडणी येते, तोडणीच्या जस्ट आधी तुमची लास्ट वॉटरिंग. आणि तो जो टाइम इंटरवल आहे फर्स्ट वॉटरिंग आणि लास्ट वॉटरिंग मधला, त्याला आपण म्हणतो बेस पिरियड. ओके, क्रॉप पिरियड म्हणजे काय आहे, जेव्हा पेरणी ते तोडणी. ओके, पेरणी ते तोडणी जो टाइम पिरियड आहे त्याला आपण क्रॉप पिरियड म्हणतो. आणि बेस पिरियड काय आहे, जेव्हा तुम्ही फर्स्ट वॉटरिंग करता, पहिल्यांदा पाणी जेव्हा मारता सीड्स प्लांट केल्यानंतर, आणि शेवटचं पाणी जेव्हा मारता हार्वेस्टिंगच्या जस्ट आधी, तोडणीच्या जस्ट आधी, त्याला आपण काय म्हणतो, त्या टाइम इंटरवलला आपण म्हणतो बेस पिरियड. So, is there any other question? Have you understood this?
Hello.
Hello, yes. Yes, roll number 50.
हाँ सर, आपने बोला कि वाटर साइकिल के हिसाब से क्या वो रेडिएशन जो है वो इसमें मतलब सी वाटर इवेपोरेट होता, फिर बाद में जाके वो क्लाउड में कन्वर्ट होकर रेनफॉल होता ना.
हाँ.
तो समर सीजन में टेम्परेचर की इंटेंसिटी बहुत ज्यादा होती है, वो उस टाइम पे फिर इवेपोरेशन रेट भी ज्यादा होता ना, तो फिर बारिश क्यों नहीं होती टाइम पर वाटर साइकिल के हिसाब से?
वाटर साइकिल की अभी कैसा है, साइकिल है, जब वाटर इमीडिएटली इवेपोरेट होके ऊपर जाता, ओके, तभी ऊपर जाके कंडेंस होके नीचे बारिश बोल के नहीं आता. नहीं तो तुम्हारा जो समर सीजन रहता था वही तुम्हारा रेनफॉल सीजन रहता था. हाँ, तो क्या होता वो, मेन जो तुम्हारा इवेपोरेशन है, इट ऑकर्स इन सीज एंड ओशियंस. ओके, विच आर वेरी जनरली हॉट प्लेसेस, स्पेशली ड्यूरिंग द समर सीजन. तो जब वो ऊपर इवेपोरेट होके ऊपर क्लाउड्स तैयार होते, तो दैट क्लाउड्स आर पुश्ड फ्रॉम अ ह्यूमिड रीजन टू कूलर रीजन्स. ओके, दैट मीन्स रीजन नियर माउंटेन्स, माउंटेनस रीजन जो रहते वो कूलर रीजन्स रहते, तो उसके तरफ वो पुश होते जाता. तो समर सीजन में जब क्लाउड्स फॉर्म होते और जब वो पुश होना स्टार्ट होते, ओके, और जब वो माउंटेनस रीजन रीच करते, तो जब तुम्हारा रेनफॉल सीजन चालू होता, जब से रेनफॉल चालू होती है. देयर इज सम
मतलब जो भी इवेपोरेशन होता है पूरा समर में होता है क्या सब?
नहीं, इट अकर्स थ्रू आउट द ईयर. थोड़ा थोड़ा हर साल के हर दिन.
मेरे को लग
हर
रहा है कि
मोमेंट पे.
इंटेंसिटी समर में ज्यादा है तो वही पे होना चाहिए बारिश.
नो नो,
मानसून में तो ज्यादा टेम्परेचर भी होता नहीं ना, तो फिर इवेपोरेशन रेट भी बहुत कम होता है उस टाइम.
इवेपोरेशन रेट कम होता, इवेपोरेशन इज प्रेजेंट throughout the year, but the intensity changes. समर में इंटेंसिटी ज्यादा
वही ना।
रहती, रेनफॉल में कम रहती, विंटर में कम रहती.
जी। ओके सर, ठीक है।
Any other? Any other? Is there any other question? So, if there is no other question, okay, so roll number 75. So, if there is no other question, should we stop the lecture? Okay, so Milind Patil sir, okay, I'll just take the attendance. Roll number 1. Roll number 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2,
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
3,
Yes, sir.
4, 5,
आवाज बंद करें.
6,
Present, sir.
7,
Present, sir.
8,
प्रेजेंट सर.
9,
Present, sir.
10,
Present, sir.
11, 12,
Present, sir.
13, 14,
Present, sir.
15,
Present, sir.
16,
Present, sir.
17. Roll number 16.
Present, sir.
तुम्ही CR आहे ना?
हाँ सर.
बरं, आज एवढे ऍबसेंटी का आहे?
माहित नाही सर.
तुमचं बुक बँक चालू आहे का आता?
हाँ चालू आहे.
तिकडे गेली आहेत का मुलं?
माहित नाही सर, गेले असतील.
17, 18,
Present, sir.
19,
Present, sir.
20, 21, 22,
Present, sir.
23, 24, 25,
Present, sir.
26, 27,
Present, sir.
28,
Present, sir.
29,
प्रेजेंट सर.
30, 31, 32,
सर.
33, 34, 35,
Present, sir.
36,
Present, sir.
37,
Yes, sir.
38, 39, 40,
Present, sir.
41,
Present, sir.
42,
प्रेजेंट सर.
43, 44,
sir.
Okay, 43 is present. Okay, 44. 45.
Present, sir.
46. 47. 48.
Present, sir.
49.
Yes, sir.
50.
Yes, sir.
51.
Yes, sir.
52. 53.
Present, sir.
54. 55.
Present, sir.
55. 56.
Present, sir.
57.
Yes, sir.
58.
Present, sir.
59. 60.
Present, sir.
61.
Present, sir.
62. 63. 64.
Present, sir.
65.
Present, sir.
66.
Present, sir.
67.
Yes, sir.
68. 69. 70.
Present, sir.
71.
Present, sir.
72.
Yes,
73. 74.
Present, sir.
75.
Present, sir.
76. 'Okay. Thank you. I'll see you in the next lecture and we'll see the remaining properties or remaining terms associated with water requirement. Okay. Thank you.